Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of the What Worked For You show. Today, we're going to talk about money, financial advising. Now, a lot of people hear the word financial advisor and they get some positive, some negative. And the reality is, there's a lot of people that come in and out of that industry. Our guest today, not so much. 40 plus years in the industry, worked with Merrill Lynch at a very high level because he knows what's going on. He gets it. You could say he has seen it all. When you're 40 years in one industry, that is a testament to not just success, but also to his focus on his clients, his focus on ensuring his clients got the best bang for their buck with their capital. He's also an author of a book called The Investor's Golden Playbook, which has a wealth of information to check out. And he's a car enthusiast, so he's one of my kind of people. I love it. So anyway, Frank Buchholz, how are you today?
Good, Frank. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Wonderful. And we're going to talk money today. I would love to talk cars with you, but that might have to be on the side, but that's okay. So anyhow, let's start off. You spent 4 decades guiding people toward this idea of financial independence, which, you hear those words today, financial independence, and it's crazy because, for right now, for a lot of people, the economy's tight. That's like, right now they're just trying to get to tomorrow.
Right.
What do you think most define your success in this industry, in particular in more recent years where things have bound up a little bit?
I think the bottom line, of course, is the fact that you have to have a definite stick with it, if you will, and you can't get discouraged. Quite candidly, it's not the easiest profession to succeed in because most people are already dealing with somebody else. And it's definitely a bit of a grind. And when I first started out, we were cold calling our brains out, 150 cold calls a day. And of course, these days you can't really do that so much anymore, which is probably a blessing in disguise. But bottom line is you got to stick with it. And of course, obviously, offer good advice. Be totally honest, be totally transparent with people, and over time you can build a nice business. But it's a challenge to put it mildly.
I want to hit on something you just said. Let's just go ahead and hit this because this is something, and I'm in real estate, and this is something that it took me several years, quite frankly, over a decade to really learn this phrase because it's one that evolves over time. And I'm just curious in your industry how to handle this. And it's this idea of what does good look like? Like I know in real estate, what I thought looked good 10 years ago versus today is very different. What about in your industry?
I think what looks good, of course, is fulfilling the client's needs and really getting an understanding of what the client's looking for. With real estate, they can talk about a $1 million home and it's got to have 3 bedrooms and so on and so forth. But when it comes to investing, it's more of a investor advisor looking at the client, determining what their needs are. How much risk are you willing to take? How old are you? How many more years before you want to retire? What tax bracket are you in? How much money do you have to invest? You got to really, what are your liquidity needs? You got to really look at all these various needs, and then of course come back with a proposal that is shown to be effective and also had good proven results and good track record. So it's a whole different mindset in terms of looking at a financial proposal versus a real estate piece of real estate. The real estate can actually touch and go and feel it and see it, whereas finance is somewhat nebulous, if you will, to a lot of people.
So that makes sense, but like someone comes in here and I go back 30 years and I think about the first time I spoke with a financial advisor and they said, well, get a Roth IRA. Okay, great. So we didn't know, so we got one, right? It's all good. And then after I guess it was 10 years, it had gone up 10%, not per year, total. And it was all in a mutual fund, right?
Ooh.
Exactly. Again, we didn't know what we know. But that's my point is when you're young or even not so young, when you get into this game of investing, with real estate investing, it's like, all right, there's rental returns, there's flip returns. But if we're just investing with an advisor, right, like we don't really know what good looks like. We could turn on Bloomberg and see, well, get this, and then you get all the market hype up and down. How does that, like, how do people really learn what good looks like in this world of financial advisement? Because the reality is most people don't really know. It's kind of nebulous. They might hear of compounding interest, rule of 72, right? And you get into all those things. How do you turn that into something tangible so people are like, oh, now I get it?
Yeah, yeah, it's good question. Very good question, by the way. I think the important thing, of course, is to have a really good advisor that can explain things in a manner where the recipient can understand what he or she is saying to them. And interestingly enough, when I started talking about the stock market to clients, I would hear invariably, "Well, I bought some stock a while back and I lost money on it." Well, if you bought some stock, where did you have a diversified portfolio? Well, no, I just bought blah blah blah, and you go, okay, well, just one stock is not a way to buy the stock market. And of course, if you look at the returns on all the investments out there, typically, depending on what you're looking at, typically the stock market's performed the best, had the best returns of any investment available to them. And the average return of the stock market has been 10% a year. 1 year in every 4 years, there's a loser. Particularly, we had one in 2022. But average returns are 10%. But you need to basically invest in the market and have a diversified portfolio. And one way to do it, of course, is to just simply buy the exchange traded fund that is ticker symbol SPY, stands for the Standard & Poor's Index 500. You buy the one little entry, if you will, one ETF, exchange traded fund, and you now have a diversified portfolio of 500 stocks. And that is a great way to play the market, cheap, effective, and I can guarantee you your returns are going to be better than, than 1% a year. Guarantee it.
Love it. Love it. Do you find, I'm sorry, sorry,
Bless you. Bless you.
had a sneeze. Wow. I don't know. That just came out of nowhere. So, do you find when you're explaining these sorts of things to clients that they really believe it's going to happen? And the reason I ask that is I've met a number of people, and when you said the whole, somebody bought a stock thing. And yes, I've heard that story many, many times as well from people that, that's one of the reasons why they get interested in real estate. And quite frankly, is, hey, I tried this and didn't right, so let's try this other thing. But do you find that when you explain this to people, like you just explained it here, that it really clicks for them? Or is it something you got to tell them multiple times? Or do people just, or is there just a bias that I'll believe it when I see it? Like, it sounds good, Frank. Yeah, I think so. But until it really happens, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some bias when I explain it to them. And a lot of times I'm not sure they really want to understand what I'm explaining to them. And then, of course, obviously, even with real estate, of course, guess what? No guarantee of future performance based on past returns. Even though we've been 10% since God knows when, here we are in 2025, and are we going to get 10% 2026? Well, we'll see, and then what about the tariffs, and what about this, and what about world peace, and what about? Well, the guarantee, of course, is the fact that if you do nothing, you'll wind up with nothing. So you've got to take a little bit of risk here. And even if you buy a piece of real estate, I don't care if it's the nicest piece of real estate in Beverly Hills, California, there's no guarantee that that's going to have an increase in value over time. Historically, it probably has, probably will in the future, but no guarantees. So, the only thing that's going to guarantee, of course, is if you put money in a bank account, you're going to earn diddly. So, and of course, you're shooting yourself in the foot as I see it, because in my case, interesting enough, over 40 years, I put every dime I had into the stock market in terms of my retirement account. And my retirement account, when I wrote the book, was worth $8.5 million. Today, it's worth over $9 million. And every penny was put in the stock market to get that results, if you will. And I probably invested over time 775 grand, give or take. So That, of course, would be substantially less if I simply put it in money markets and super safe investments. But
Mhm.
somehow or another, way back when I had the knowledge or fortitude or ability, I'm not sure which of all three, but I did have the ability to make sure I put all that money in the stock market. And thank God I did, because now, of course, the account's substantial. And that's just a portion of my investable assets.
I love it. So, and I had a thought, now it slipped my mind. It'll come back. It'll come back. So I had a thought, I wanted to pity back, and now it slipped my mind. It'll come back. So let's move on. Uh, you earned top honors at Merrill Lynch. You were in the director circle, you were in their circle of excellence. What did those milestones teach you about excellence?
I think the bottom line, of course, is that, you know, when you treat people properly, they reward you. And it's like do the right thing and somehow it comes back to you. Do the wrong thing, it comes back to haunt you. So my thinking was that the clients could ask me pretty much anything about investing, and I would try to give them a very blunt, honest answer. And I think that I was rewarded by that, and I got a lot of, you know, if you will, accolades for that, and I got a lot of referrals, and I think that it rewarded me substantially by doing that. So that's how I ran my business. And, candidly, I did very, very well at it. And I was one of the top producers at my office over many, many years. So it all worked out. And of course, you do the right thing and it comes back to help you in the long run.
So that, and I remember my last question, thank you. And it piggybacks off what you just said, doing the right thing. And sometimes you can do the right thing in business and it not work out. That's one of the
That's
challenges with
correct. No
business.
question. No guarantees again.
Yeah, whether it's an investment, you could, and relationship, whatever it is. Sometimes it's luck is just not on your side, right? And now you
Yeah.
got to figure
Yeah.
some things out. But for that investor that's new, or maybe they're not new, they're experienced, but they've been burned and it hurt. Okay. And I have firsthand experience with both. So, and the reality is a lot of people do, right? Because everyone's new at some point, and
Right.
then a lot of people have invested and they loved it until they didn't. They
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
burned. With the amount of information on the internet today, YouTube University, as I like to call it, with all the advice, which might be questionable at times, how does somebody really know that's the person I need to hire as an advisor?
That's another good question. I think bottom line is that it's really dependent upon if they can to talk to the advisor in person, because that way they can get a sense of who they are, what they are, how they're made up. But I think also number one, look for patience. So many advisors are arrogant SOBs, and they think they know it all, and they walk on water and so on and so forth. Um, I hate those types of advisors. In fact, in my book, I point out that I don't like most advisors. So patience is number one. Number two, of course, is the ability to answer the potential client's questions in a professional, honest, blunt answer, so that they can actually have some confidence and trust in what the advisor is saying. And then, of course, also, look for some referrals. Maybe you have some affluent friends. They can, you can get a referral from one of your affluent friends or your CPA or your attorney, and or even a branch manager of a major brokerage firm, and explain the situation where you're at and get a referral that way. But I would suggest strongly to set up an appointment, and maybe even bring somebody along with you. Maybe your confidant, your sibling, your parents, somebody to give you a second opinion in terms of that particular advisor's opinion, and then look for their background. If you go to FINRA.org, you can see their background, where they've worked, and if they have any complaints against them. And of course, most advisors will have a complaint of some flavor. It's hard not to have a complaint over the years. But if they have settlements against them, then I would not do business with that person for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, that's good. So many people say investing is complicated, but you built a career that effectively simplified it for everyone. How did you develop such a clarity-driven approach that made you so trusted? And you mentioned being blunt earlier, but can you elaborate a bit further?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I think that one thing the arrogant advisors want to do, of course, is they want to talk in financial speak. The price earnings ratio, the standard deviation, the yield to maturity, and the blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I tried to simplify the words and actually have a piece of paper in front of me where I could actually write out what I was talking about. So I could actually explain yield to maturity on a bond versus current yield and so on and so forth. And of course, we could talk about the stock market and actually show them, what it's all about. What's price earnings ratio? What's dividend yield? And actually explain it to them in simple third grade math terms, so they could kind of put two and two together to get to four. But so many advisors have this arrogant about them, and they want to, you know, try to impress this potential prospect. And I think it actually harms the whole process, hurts the advisor, hurts the prospect. I think that you got to simplify things. And in my book, I try to make things as easy as possible to understand. So again, the book is not a complicated read at all. Investors Golden Playbook, I made sure that it was well presented and easy to understand so that people don't go, what's he talking about now?
What made you decide to write the book? Like, why now?
Well, I retired at the end of 2021.
Hmm.
And, I've read on more than one occasion, when you retire, you want to have a sense of purpose, quote unquote. Well, my sense of purpose, of course, was to spread the word because I felt that I had good knowledge. I had a track record from my own account, if nobody else, about what I'd done to become successful. And, candidly, bottom line, of course, is the fact that, we're well into the 1% range in terms of net worth. But I wanted to kind of also give back. So my thought process was, well, if I can help my fellow Americans to achieve a better retirement by being affluent when they retire, that's a win-win. And then, of course, number two, it occurred to me, well, I've got plenty of money, not to sound elitist here, but and my wife and I, we don't really want any more stuff. We have a 4,000 square foot house full of stuff. We don't want any more stuff. I don't need another fancy car. So why not? And once we turn a profit on the book, why not give all our money to charity? Because that is certainly, I think, a debt of gratitude that I'd like to fulfill. And it also is good for your health, and it also gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling. So my book ultimately became a double give back, helping people invest for their retirement, to live better, have better lives, and also to take the profits and give to charity worthwhile organizations, which I'm doing currently. But I'd like to give a lot more, if you will.
So, in your book, kind of piggybacking off of that, you describe it as this is a book that can literally change your life.
Absolutely, no question.
What's a principle? I mean, you talked about the charity there, but is there an overriding principle in the book that has the power to just do that? Like, if here's the one thing.
Well, I think that, I'd almost probably make it a two approach. You know,
Sure.
the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. So if you're, even in my case, I didn't really start saving seriously for my retirement until I turned 35 because we didn't have a 401k when I first started working. That was a newer, if you will, and product, if you will, by virtue of legislation. But start early, and then of course stick with it. Have things set up whereby you have automatic deductions. So in my 401k, I would max out the 401k every year, but it came out of my paycheck, and it happened every paycheck twice a month, and of course every penny would go into the stock market. So I was an autopilot. So start early, keep with it, don't give up. And in 2001, when some people were running for the door because of the Great Recession, if you will, uh, I had many a sleepless night, but I kept investing, and those investments I made at that point in time turned out to be extremely profitable. So, stick with it, have the fortitude, have the courage, and to ride it out to the finish line.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, for all our listeners, we'll have a link to the book. But now let's take it back for a moment. And you mentioned, man, after 40 years, there's a number of advisors where you're like, maybe not so much. Going back when you got into this, it was the 70s is what I saw.
Yeah,
And
actually, I started in '82.
82? Okay.
Yeah,
So it looked
'82.
like
Yeah.
you were getting the investment world and then got into financial advising, something like that.
Yeah, so I was a financial advisor in '82, and of course, the economy wasn't exactly, shall we say, robust in 1982, to put it mildly. And we had interest rates that were over the top, and we had inflation running rapidly, and it was you know kind of a challenging time. But here we are. So you know.
Sure. So what led you into the world of financial advisement and what were you doing before that that kind of made to do that transition?
Well, I did a major in college. I had a business degree with a minor in finance, and I found the financial world to be fascinating. My father was very heavily involved with it, and I enjoyed it. And before I got into into the investment arena, I worked with a number of jobs, basically in sales, including uh, various paints and chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. I'd call on car dealers and body shops, et cetera. So it was more of sales oriented. The situation, though, is very difficult when you're 22 years old and graduate from college to become a financial advisor. So
Mm,
I waited basically until I was 30 years old to hop into the arena. So I had 8 years of experience, job related experience, and working in other industries. But bottom line, of course, is that they all kind of trained me in a number of ways to become a financial advisor. And then, of course, when you become a financial advisor, you do have to pass what they call the Series 7 exam, which is a PIA. And it's very arduous, but I had enough background with my finance degree where I was able to get through it, of course, on the first try without a great deal of difficulty.
mm. So you were already in the business and then you dove into financial advising.
In effect, yeah.
So what went through your mind? And I know we're going back, but just out of curiosity, because there's always that, like in the real estate world, we always remember our first deal. Like, do you remember your first client when you finally stepped into that world?
Actually, no, I'm sorry to say.
It's all right. It's all
Sorry to
right.
say.
Well, I just always because when you first, and the reason I ask that is because I have met people that, but they didn't have 40 years of experience, but they're like, they said, well, when I got into it and I had that first client, it was exciting, but it was like a little bit terrifying, right? Because you're like, that whole question of, can I really advise these people, especially if they've already had some level of success? Did you have feelings of that along the way where it's like, these people are already really successful. Why do they need me? Can I really help them?
Well, I wasn't so. I actually didn't really have that sentiment. I think the major difference, of course, back in 1982 was the fact that uh, we weren't necessarily financial advisors. I think we were more financial salespeople. And I decided to get into the municipal bond world because that's where the affluent people were investing at that point in time when interest rates were north of 10%. And I decided to go down that route. And of course, we would cold call with municipal bonds paying, 10, 11%. So, as far as advising, that came later. And in my book, I point out the fact that for sure, no question by now, the advisor and the client is much better served now than they were back then. Because basically we were salespeople versus advising people. So it's a much better prospect for the client coming into the arena as far as getting advice now versus back then.
So when you say you were primarily sales back then,
Correct, correct.
so can you
Selling
elaborate?
municipal bonds. You want to buy a municipal bond paying 11%, And of course, some people would say, no, no, interest rates are going higher. Well, they never did go higher. They went lower. So it's kind of a shame. But bottom line is the investments were perfectly legitimate, but we were selling them versus presenting them.
Mm. So it sounds like it was a little more hit and miss then.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, sadly, of course, in 1982, those first clients I dealt with, uh, would, of course, sadly passed away by now. So it's probably why I don't necessarily remember them.
No, understood, understood. Well, after 40 years, you've seen the markets go up and down. Obviously, we've had a number of cycles. I was a kid during the time of those high interest rates, but I heard the stories. And now in real estate, looking back, going, wow, that was kind of high. Of course, they're kind of high now when you account for all the inflation that's occurred.
Right, right.
But when you think of all those cycles you've been through, especially, having been through several of them, it's easy to tell people just be patient. It goes up, it goes down, like that's part of the ride. But no matter how many times we hear that, we struggle to accept it. How do you help
No
people
question.
through that now, especially as fast as the world moves? Because
Yeah, no
it's,
question. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So bottom line, of course, is the fact that, every time the market moves lower, it's always come back and moved to higher highs every time. Now, there could be an exception to the rule at some point in time. Granted, yes, there's no guarantees, but every time it's gone lower, it's moved to higher highs. And if anything, of course, it's kind of like that piece of real estate you're looking at. There was $1 million. Now it's 900,000. So it's on sale. So you got to kind of look at it from that standpoint. And again, you want to have a long-term horizon. You don't necessarily want to have the 6 month type situation whereby you want to make sure you can ride things out, if you will. A perfect example, of course, of riding things out was 2020 when the market went to hell by March of 2020 because of COVID, and we were down substantially. And I mean, we were thrown out of the office. The whole world was in disarray, and I was sitting right in this computer in my office here, and talking to clients, and I was all by myself. It was kind of weird, but bottom line, of course, is that at the end of the year, the markets were higher than when the year began. So it's a perfect example of when things look really, really bleak, but yet things did come back and they were positive by the end of the year. Now, in 2022, because of all the inflation we had, the markets did close negative that year. But we've had positive years in 23, 24, and 25. So that more than made up for the losses I had experienced in 2022. And again, I did not panic. I stuck it out, but it was my first year of retirement. I think to myself, oh God, here we go. Another one of these years, right? So again, I had learned over the years, don't run for the door, have enough money on the side so you can, get through it, enough liquidity, but leave that money in there. And of course, guess what? Those monies have gone up substantially in the last 3 years. Like I looked the other day and I thought, holy Toledo, I was a bit blown away. And I'm not trying to sound not bragging, but I was looking at it going, my accounts are up that much since 2000, since in 23 on a go forward basis. I was shocked. So anyway, it does show you that, things do come back, no question.
Mm. It's so true, right? And it just, and I just think, I was chatting with a lady a few weeks ago, and she said, you know what? Just having the patience to wait
Absolutely.
is one of the hardest things. Knowing when to push, when to wait, but something like the market you don't control, can't really
Yeah.
push it,
Yeah. No
right?
question. No question. I'm telling you, it's like holy Toledo. I mean, it can get very scary, particularly 2000, 8 and 9. It was rough when I see Bank of America stock go from, $60 a share to $3 a share, whatever it was. And then, of course, that's when B of A acquired Merrill Lynch. I was actually a B of A employee, and we acquired Merrill Lynch at that point in time. But man, those were really scary times. I mean, I thought if B of A goes out of business, there goes my deferred comp. And if B of A goes out of business, there goes the world economy because it's such a big bank. So
So by the time that crash happened, now at that point you're in the business roughly 25 years.
yeah,
So you've already seen cycles. You saw .com, you saw all the ups and downs. When you went through that crash in '08, '09, how did did you question all the expertise you had at that point? Because that was a special time, right? For all the wrong reasons. And, a lot of people did lose everything. It ended up being a very bad time for a number of things. How did you get through that? What was your mindset? and did you question yourself? And then and I'm sure people were calling you with, oh my gosh, what do I do? And right. So now you're not only ever thinking about yourself, but all your clients, and just feel free to share.
Yeah. So bottom line, of course, to be blunt, it was sheer hell, if you will. Many sleepless nights. And the irony, of course, is that more things happen on the weekend than seem to happen during the week. When I was watching the Denver Bronco game one Sunday afternoon, my wife yells up from downstairs, "You won't believe what happened." And I thought to myself, "Oh God, now what?" Well, BMA is going to acquire Merrill Lynch. I go, "Oh, well, there's news." And Lehman Brothers is going bankrupt. I go, "Oh my God, there's more bad news. Oh Jesus, oh my God." So bottom line, of course, is that it was scary times. I did have one client panic and sell everything because he couldn't take it any longer. Um, and of course, management was encouraging us to encourage clients to not sell and run for the door. And of course, management was 1000% right looking back on things. I did not sell anything. I kept investing. And, I'm not sure if I really questioned what I was doing at that point in time, but candidly, I was pretty panic stricken myself because, it was getting pretty dicey, if you will. So, but I did hang in there, and I only had one client that sold, but we did get through it. And by the grace of God, we came out smelling like a rose. So again, I think the same rules apply today. Now, let's hope we don't have another meltdown like that. But I mean, the world right now does have some shaky ground, no question. I mean, we got some wars going on across the globe, and we got, a lot of animosity in terms of politics in America, and it's not exactly a rosy situation. But the market keeps going up, and a lot of it is driven by, artificial intelligence. So I think the artificial intelligence has been a big boom for the market, good for earnings for corporations. So again, am I selling anything? No, but I do have again enough liquidity on the side where I can kind of ride things out.
So let's talk about the market today, now that you bring that up. Since you brought it up, you hear people, of course, there's the conversation around tariffs, which was strong earlier this year, but it's a bit quieter now. You still hear about it, but it's not, the main headline at the moment. You do hear about the wars, you hear about the uncertainty. There's the odds of our politicians acting like they like each other is probably not in the foreseeable future. How does someone know, what, in spite of all of that, here's how to invest and and then just ride the wave and be strong. Obviously, AI, in its infancy, that will continue to grow, probably leaps and bounds if I had to guess. But we never know, right? Because, a few years ago, we were like, well, EVs and everything EV was going to be great. And now EV is like, doesn't quite have the luster it had. We're car people, right? So we can kind of, anyway. But so, uh, with all the volatility in the world, how do you advise people on how to invest through these times? Because I don't know, it's not going to be volatile anytime soon. I don't, who knows?
Yeah, and of course, I think the way things are going, and particularly with all the instant communications and instant access to news, et cetera. I think the volatility factor could be a situation for us the rest of our lives and our children's lives. So, it's one of those things where maybe we just have to kind of get used to it. The world is not going to somehow become rosy overnight, and I don't see the political landscape changing overnight. There's so much built-in animosity in America that I think it's going to continue on for quite a while. And I'm not trying to point fingers at either party, but we do have it's pretty well entrenched at this point in time. Having to direct an answer to your question more directly, though, I think that a person still should be investing in the stock market today, and even if they have never invested, they can nibble away at it, if you will, by via dollar cost averaging. If you have let's say you've saved up $100,000, you don't have to necessarily just dump in the market today all at one time. You could do 25 today and 10 every month over the next 8 months, 7.5 months, if you will. So bottom line, of course, is that you can dollar cost average, meaning you're taking some of the day investing and then adding to the market over time, if you will, to get an overall average. So if the market does go down, you're now buying more shares, if you will. So, but I still think that you know there's no time like the present. And I firmly believe that the same also holds true with real estate. I think that the real estate prices will be higher, maybe not next year, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I think the real estate prices will be higher. And I believe the stock prices will be higher also. And in fact, I have personally have more faith in the stock market being higher by virtue of all the technology gains. Because real estate, you can't really quantify with technology, whereas with corporate America and corporate world, it can definitely be helped by via technology, like I say, with artificial intelligence and so on. So I'm a firm believer in the concept of earnings growing and seeing that earnings, of course, will ultimately contribute to higher stock prices. And I think I foresee that happening.
Got it. Got it. So kind of along that line, what's the best buy advice you've given where you look back at a client, you go, you know what? That was a home run. And look at how that turned.
I'm not really, I've never been a quote unquote stock picker. Because stock picking is certainly fraught with peril. If you know, should we buy should we buy Google today? Should we buy Costco today? Should we buy Amazon today? Whatever, General Motors, Tesla. I'm not really a stock picker. I'm a firm believer in if you have enough money. Let's say you got $500,000. I believe you should have the account professionally managed by people that do this all day long for a living and have a team of professionals. And we had a number of people on our platform that's what they did. They were actually managing an account for a client, and they would be typically in a certain segment of the market, be it large cap growth or large cap value or small or mid cap or what have you, or international. And you could look back on their track record and see how they've done over the years, and including, if you go back far, you can see how they did through the challenging years. So I'm a firm believer in doing that. And of course, in terms of the professionally managed accounts, they were monitored also by Merrill Lynch very carefully. And if they were deviating from their mandate, they would be fired and we'd replace them with another manager. So in terms of that, of course, I think that one of my big home runs, of course, was, and I mentioned in my book, was a foundation I worked with. And when I started working with the foundation, they had a $5 million account, and today they're at 12 million. And that's because we had a managed account and we got success with the managed account. And bear in mind that from 5 to 12 doesn't sound like much because it's a little more than doubling your money, but the foundation's mandate is to give 5% away every year. So you pull 5% out of the principal away every year and still grow the money from 5 to 12. That, of course, is, I think, a very, very positive result and a good positive outcome.
Love it. So effectively, it's not so much buy a stock, but invest with a team,
Right.
right? And
You see,
so,
I'm the believer in the stock market. Very strong believer in that. But also, what's the best way to get the returns in the stock market? Have a professional team help you manage those funds.
so effectively, then let's talk about that. So if what you're saying is, I want to invest, but I want a team backing me up, then should people, and everyone's different, but like when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, so if I meet, Bob Smith, whoever Bob Smith is, right down the street, and he's a solopreneur as a financial advisor, he has no team behind him, then maybe that's not the best choice. Rather than maybe I want to invest with, Jane Smith, but Jane Smith works with a team of, to use your language, people that do this all day, every day. So is it safe to say that if I invest with a Jane Smith versus a Bob Smith who's solopreneur, the odds of having a better result might be better? Obviously, there's no guarantees, but would that be
Yeah,
a
and
fair assessment?
yeah, and of course, when I say team, I'm talking about a team that's actually outside the firm. So, for example, one of the best known investment firms is PIMCO, right here in Newport Beach, and of course they have separate managed accounts, and of course those accounts can, of course, and have done pretty darn well for clients over time. So when I'm talking about a team, I'm talking about outside money managers, whereby the advisor does not have a biased opinion in terms of picking an in-house team. We're talking about outside teams, so it's what they call it open architecture in the investment world, meaning that all the managers are outside the firm. So
Mm,
when I say team, that's what I'm referring to is an outside money management firm like a PIMCO, for example, or
gotcha.
Newberg or Berman or whomever. So I'm a firm believer in these types. That's the way I firmly believe it should be done.
Gotcha, gotcha. So team doesn't necessarily mean that entrepreneur, that advisor has an internal team. It's he's working with teams at all the various
Yeah, external
investment
teams.
places. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Got it. You reference Ronald Reagan's secret to success in your book.
Yeah, I did put that in there. I sure did.
A lot of people don't know what it is. What is his secret to success and how did you leverage it? How did it resonate?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Of course, speaking of cars, we had a Ferrari club meet, and we drove to the Ronald Reagan Museum in Sylmar one Saturday afternoon. And the one thing that stuck with me was when James Baker talked about Reagan and his success in the fact that Reagan had the innate ability to make everybody feel good upon meeting them or greeting them, for that matter.
Mm,
So that, of course, I think resonated with me. And my thought process was, let's take that and go run with it, and also include that in my financial advisor repertoire. So
mm,
here I was, this advisor, and you got to be kind of careful so you don't patronize, but yet, it's good to see you again, and how are you? You know what I mean? Have some warmth to everything. And of course, Reagan had that aura about him. And I think that he had that aura of leadership and that power and that ability to lead people and encourage people and persuade people. He had the power of persuasion like no other president I've ever seen. So uh, I tried to use that. And again, I think it's all about making people feel good. I don't care if it's your spouse, if it's your friends, it's whomever, people on the street, you practice what you preach, and even to the point of, the people that you come across that are working in positions that are, shall we say, very challenging, go out of your way to be extra polite to them. And airline stewards, for example, those jobs are very difficult. Go out of your way, nice to see you, how are you today, whatever, but you develop these habits of making people feel good. So I firmly believe that the investment success is not just about money, it's also about life and in general. And I think that success runs deeper than just money, money, money. That's why I put that in there.
mm. Well, no doubt, if you can make somebody feel good, you tend to get better results. It's just
Absolutely, no question, no question.
human nature. I love it. You remind business owners that retirement accounts are a gift from the government. Why is this an opportunity that so many overlook?
Well, the I think the bottom line is that the people are just not aware, and they're not thinking about it. They get caught up on their daily grind, if you will, and they don't really necessarily plan ahead. Because as you and I know, the days go by slow and the years go by fast. So here we are. I mean, I look back and I think to myself, "Holy Toledo!" How that happened so fast? So I think it's kind of we got to have a wake up call for people. You need to start really considering investing now. And they're trying to do that with some of the proposals coming out of the current administration about trying to save more or set up accounts or what have you. But the bottom line, of course, is that the Roth IRA for most people is the way to go in terms of just setting up an account, because your money grows for you, tax free and tax free when withdrawn. So if you can contribute, X number of dollars every year and let that money grow for you, and when you pull the money out, even if the money is quadrupled, it's all yours. So I'm a firm believer in setting up a Roth IRA if you could qualify, and if you have a 401k, try to max out the contribution, which is what I did over each and every year. So that way you do have a nest egg when you do retire, because having a nest egg when you retire certainly enhances your retirement. Trust me on that one. I know that for a fact.
No, no, there's no doubt the Roth IRA, great tool, great tool. and maximizing it is, it's a beautiful thing. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful,
absolutely, no
a
question.
beautiful thing. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, today, money is moving faster than ever. Unfortunately, speculation is also faster than ever. Right? I take the good with the bad.
Yeah, no question.
How do you help people? How can investors return to these timeless principles? And an example would be, for example, Bitcoin. Bitcoin came out. Yes, it is crazy high. I saw just yesterday, I guess it was over 130,000. And so now, it's sort of earned its legitimacy, although some people to this day say the thing is still a scam. So, depending on who you ask. But regardless of whether it's the stock market or crypto or real estate or whatever your investment vehicle is, how do you help people get back to these just timeless principles on how to invest? Because the fundamentals never change, at least not to
Yeah,
my knowledge.
certainly be challenging, no question about it. I think that you got to point out the track records, point out what's going to happen if you do nothing, and I think that so far the Bitcoin situation has proven to be if you'd started way back when, of course, you'd be a gazillionaire by now. And I'm kind of the skeptic because when you work in the financial services industry for 40 years, you become skeptical because there's a lot of stuff thrown at you that's a big, not so great, if you will. So I'm not necessarily in favor of Bitcoin. And if you do get involved in Bitcoin, you got to be very careful who you do it with, and because there's some bad actors out there, to put it mildly.
Sure.
So but again, I think it's you have to take the bull by the horns, Mr. Client, and we need to lead you to that golden path of a golden retirement. You gotta stick with it, and you gotta start, and you gotta keep doing it each and every month. And if you do, you will have your dream retirement.
Well, you've transitioned into retirement at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% retired, no question about it. But I'm enjoying it. It's been fun. You
Yeah.
know.
So do you work with any clients today? Do you help people, coach people, help new advisors? Are you doing any of that?
No, I'm not, but I do keep in touch with a number of my clients. Having said that, my securities license has expired, so I gotta be kind of careful. I really can't tell people, well, you need to buy this bond or this stock or that stock. So, but I do talk in generalities like I'm doing with you, which is perfectly legitimate. But again, a lot of times the clients, they just need to have their hand held. And of course they can call me, and I've given them some, well, you got too much money. You should talk to my daughter or whomever about, maybe investing some of those funds. But I'm not really a lead advisor at this point in time for sure.
Gotcha. What surprised you the most about stepping away from the daily grind now that you're retired?
You're gonna laugh at this. It sounds kind of trite, maybe stupid, but the irony, of course, is I never know what day it is.
Fair.
It's kind of a weird scenario. Um, I think the other thing, of course, is that the days go by a lot faster than they did as well.
Really?
So that's kind of interesting, which is kind of a surprise to me. Um, the other thing, of course, is that the other thing that I find, again, it sounds elitist, maybe I'm bragging, but we have no money worries in this house, and the vast majority of people that retire have money worries. So we've escaped that situation. However, we do have some medical issues on the other side of the coin. So that's affected both my wife and myself. But we're not gonna wood. We're doing okay in the grand scheme of things, but it's not been as smooth as we would have hoped. So anyway,
So even when you retire, it's still always something.
yeah, Gilda Radner. It's always something. Yep, it's always
Yes,
something.
always. It never goes away. So, and
Yeah.
I've actually had people say to me, "When does it get easier?" And one
No.
of my coaches puts it this way: he says, "It never gets easier. You just get stronger."
Yeah, and it gets just gets different.
Or it gets different. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And different can be scary for some, right?
No, absolutely, no question, no question.
Gotcha. So for those listening who want to build not just wealth, but meaning, what are some pieces of advice that you can share, in particular from your book, that you would want them to live by?
I think that the concept of charitable giving, I think, is very worthwhile. Um, I worked with two foundation clients, and when I was working, and you know, I became trustee on one of them. I recently returned last weekend from a trip to Minneapolis because we had our yearly meeting, and that's I've been contributing to them um, since 2020 21 actually. And then we had another for my other foundation account. We had she has a kind of a get together party every year, if you will. And this year she was introducing the various political people in Orange County. Here's the mayor of Costa Mesa, and here's this Orange County supervisor, and here's this, and here's that, and all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, and I want to have a special guest here. I have a special guest award for Frank and Beverly Buchholz." And I thought to myself, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's this all about?" So, uh, since I wasn't going to show this, but here, there's my plaque for Frank and Beverly Buckles for one of my former clients, and so far we've given over $110,000 to both my former clients, and
Mm.
charitable giving I think is very rewarding, and there's always going to be need out there. I don't care. The government will never satisfy all the needs, and it is what it is. So charitable giving, I think, is extremely worthwhile, and I would highly encourage that by people that can afford to do it. It is also very healthy for you. It's good for your mind.
Yeah, no, I love it. At this point, you've created a lot of wealth for yourself. You've had a lot of success from your career. How do you define success today?
Well, I hate to use that money situation is, but I think it's I think it I would say success is freedom. You know, and I'm not talking about freedom from a political government point of view. I'm talking about freedom from the sense of worry, if you will, and concern. And of course, everybody has worries, everybody has concerns. That just comes to the territory as far as life goes. But I think that success means that if you don't have at least you don't have money worries, that's a huge relief for you. And I think that will also contribute to your better health, because so many people are concerned about making the next payment and so on and so forth. I think that's a major concern in America. But I think I would define success as the more free you are, the more successful you are.
Mm. Now looking back here into your retired years, you can enjoy the success, you can enjoy the charitable giving, giving back to people, helping, serving. You've written the book to help people. So my last question to you is, how do you view, maybe not how do you view, but what's the legacy you want to leave for people?
I would say, read the Investors Golden Playbook, and take action and spread the word. Encourage your children, encourage your siblings to take action, because ultimately it's in their best interest. And so many people just don't want to think about money except for all the things they can buy with it. And it's this constant live for today
Mm,
attitude. No, but credit card bill is, $20,000 this month. So what, we'll pay it next month, and so on and so forth. But I would encourage people to take action and to spread the word, because again, I think, when it comes to investing, so many people don't have a clue. I mean, the number of people I talked to, a girl the other day, she didn't know what a Roth IRA was, which I get it. I'm not knocking her. That's our current society, but
yeah.
you gotta have some basic knowledge. And in fact, the woman was a waiter at a place I went to get some food, and I gave her $20. I go, here, go to Amazon and buy the book. So that's part of my give back routine. So,
Mm,
I'm a firm believer, not just, I mean, I think that it is helping spread the word, no question.
love it. Love it. Well, Frank, I want to thank you for coming on today. Just some insightful thoughts, and I've always appreciate speaking with people that have been around a while, because there's a certain wisdom, right, that only comes from time. And
That's right, no question about it.
you can be really
No
smart when you're
question.
35 years old, but there's a big difference between 30s and 50s and 60s and 70s,
That's right.
and we grow to appreciate that wisdom as we get along in life. So I want to
No
thank you
question.
again
Yeah.
for coming on.
Yeah. Thank
And to
you.
our yeah, and to our listeners, I want to encourage you. I will have a link to Frank's book below, so definitely encourage you to pick up a copy if you want to connect to him. He's got some social medias there; you can connect with him there. So, Frank, I want to thank you again for coming on the show today. I appreciate your insights. Can you leave us with a final word?
Start today. Don't quit. Keep going.
Blunt and to the point.
That's my blunt answer. I was blunt with my clients. I might as well be blunt with you too, Frank.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, my
Well, thank
pleasure.
you
My
again.
pleasure. Thank you, Frank.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on today, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Perfect. Sounds good, Frank. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.